Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. I wonder whoever came up with that. You know, testing 1, 2, 3. They should have copyrighted it.
It's probably a radio. I would assume it was a radio term at one point, right?
Could have been a radio term. Could have been an Army term.
Yeah, for comms.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. You never know. Okay, let's see who we've got in the chat room today. By the way, folks, this is Nick Craig. We'll introduce him more formally later. But for now, check 1, 2, 3. Can everybody hear me? Except Tommy Willis. Tommy doesn't count. He's going deaf. He's blind in 2 eyes. It's amazing he still drives. All right, let's see. Jeff's here, and Chris, and Martin, and Jan, and Bill. Oh, Bill from Texas. I got that PTZ deal. Anybody wants a group buy on a PTZ optic camera, you need to let me know. Tom at easternshorebroadcasting.com. Let me know today, because we got some good discounts there. Dave, John L. You know, John L. doesn't get enough appreciation in the forum, but it was John L. and the wife that created the Streaming Idiots Facebook group, which is now like over 300 people, 350 some odd. Thank you, John L. Paul, Dave, Scott. Scott's doing amazing things. Scott, we got to get you on the show here before too long. Jens, Nick Craig, of course, our guest, Darren, Amnon, the great-grandfather of live streaming, Steve, Rudy, Mike, Merle, 422, that's Martin, Johnny, Alan, Alex, good to talk to you this morning. Kent, I got your email. I hope you got mine. Let's see. Donald Trump is in the house. Wow, I'm impressed. Hey-o. And Kenny, John O'Malley's here, Dave Edwards, Rod is here from the UK, Giles is here from the UK, 321 Action Video. That would be, Michael. The wife is here. Oh, my goodness. Oh, golly. Y'all got to be on your best behavior. Curtis is here. Suncast is here. Welcome, Suncast. Glad to have you. Hopefully we can shed some light on that audio thing. Philip, Texas Mike, Martin S. Martin S., where in the world are you watching? Generally, Martin S. is off the grid somewhere in the boot of his car, streaming and doing everything on battery. It's amazing. And Prashana is watching us from Nepal, where the time zone is actually not a full shifted hour. It's a half hour. So it's like 2:30 in the morning. Well, yeah, it's coming up on 2:30 in the morning for him. Tom S., why should they? I'm not. Okay, so the wife is going to be down and in the dirt with the rest of you guys. This is going to be fun. All right, so let's see. So some of you guys are watching us in the morning. Some of you are watching us in the afternoon, some in the evening, and some in the middle of the night. Wow. And I can tell that a bunch of you, and I'm glad you're here, you're watching us on Facebook or you're watching us directly on YouTube. And you're saying, who is Tom talking about? Well, I'm talking about the folks in the chat. Let me show you the chat here for just a second. And that's a bad picture of the chat, but anyway, you get the idea. The chat room is where folks go to chat with us while we're broadcasting, and it makes it a whole lot more fun to have this interactive ability. So if you want to ask Nick a question or if you want to ask me a question, by all means, come to easternshorebroadcasting.com and go to the Watch Live page, and you'll have the chat and you'll have the video here. And so if you're watching on Facebook or watching directly on YouTube, come on over easternshorebroadcasting.com and watch us live and chat with us live. We'd love to have you with us. And for the most part, this is a pretty well-behaved group, for the most part. So I always have to have that qualifier because there are people in there like Jeff Main and Martin Stuckey that are always causing trouble. Okay, how are we doing on time? We got 3 minutes left. Y'all say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to Nick. Because Nick,
what's going on?
Welcome, glad to have you. Nick, you're in New York?
I am in New York, the capital. The
capital of New York, which is like Yonkers?
No, Albany. I'm upstate. I'm not down in the city, thankfully.
Okay.
I'm a little I'm about 3.5 hours from
Okay.
New York City.
All right. Now how are you connecting to me today? I sent you the password for the vMix call function. Are you calling through vMix or are you calling through Chrome or another browser?
I'm calling through Chrome with vMix external video.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
All right.
using vMix, just
Okay.
not on my production machine. I'm not
Gotcha.
not on 19 yet. And
Gotcha. Okay. So you're coming in to me at 720 at 2 megabits per second. Okay.
that would, yeah, my project is 720. So you
Okay.
want me to try to switch up to 1080?
Yeah, we got a minute. Let's try it. Let's
Okay,
see what happens.
let's go.
I mean, I'm not broadcasting at 1080. I'm broadcasting at 720, but I'm recording at 1080.
All right, let's do it.
But
1920 by 10.
your video looks really good.
All right, so it's going to have to restart vMix, so I'm going to lose my video temporarily.
Yep, he froze.
All right, it's
He
coming back.
froze.
Let's see, do I have to set the external to be 1080 as well? That's set up by default. Click that on. Capture device still in use. All right, let me shut the video off. Now turn external on. Capture device still in use. Let me try refreshing.
Okay. All right. This is what we're getting from Nick right now.
Uh-oh. No, we screwed it up, Tom. Now it's telling me my capture device is still in use. Let me just close vMix completely and restart it. This is why we don't test.
This is why we don't
I
test 30 seconds before airtime. Yeah.
should have learned my lesson. I made a grave mistake last night on my show that was not great.
Well, the whole idea, folks, is that you get to see the underbelly of these, dare I say, homemade productions. We're not pros, although although we pretend to be pros on the internet.
There we go.
There he is. There he is. All right. So, okay, this is interesting because vMix Call is negotiating your bandwidth and had you at 360 initially, and now it's up to 720 at 1.5. We're bumping up to about 2.0, and let's see if it'll bump you up to 1080. Still, it's hitting about 720 at 2 megabits per second. 30 frames a
At
second.
that point, it might be just my band. I only have 5 megabits up, so it may be
Okay.
bandwidth limiting.
Okay, well but you're still in the green, so
Okay, cool.
That's good. You're in the green. Let's just check your stats here real quick. We've got a little stat sheet. Frames lost. There are none. Packets lost. We lost 2 packets.
Cancel the show.
Yeah,
Wrap it up.
that's right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This vMix call is amazing. Oh my gosh.
And I have yet to try it in production yet because of our trip this week. I didn't want to install a new copy of vMix or re-update vMix, and
Right.
was going to be away for a week and then come back and have another show. So hopefully by next week's time, I'm up to date on my production computer.
All right. Well, the beauty of it's like NDI in some ways. That NDI is so easy to use. I've set it up and I've forgotten that I'm even using it. I mean, I'm using it
Yeah.
right now, and I'm not aware that I'm using it. And the vMix call is going to work the same way. I mean, all I did was take last week's call, do a refresh to get a new password, send it to you, and here you are. I mean, it's almost Tom-proof.
Is there a release candidate out for vMix 19 yet, or is it still just...
Yes.
There is. Okay, I need to get that.
19.0.0.33 is the release candidate. Folks, we're still in pre-show if you're joining us. Nick and I are just bantering back and forth, but I would, because we're going to start in -1 minute. But I would invite you, if you're watching us on YouTube directly or if you're watching on Facebook, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com, easternshorebroadcasting.com, because that's where the chat room is. And so you would have an opportunity to see the chat room in what looks like this. This is the chat right up here. and you would get to see the whole chat, except I think Nick and our video would be above the chat. But you can pop the chat out, or you can pop the video out. Put them side by side, do whatever you want to with them. But I see that there are 3, 4, 5 or 6 dozen folks watching on YouTube and only about 4 dozen in chat. So I would invite those of you watching us on Facebook or watching on YouTube directly, come on over to Eastern Shore Broadcasting, come into the chat. That way you can ask us questions, you can make comments, and you can get to see some of the other folks that are here. It's a pretty good group of folks that are here every week, except you got to keep your eye on Kent. Kent is a troublemaker. So when Kent asks a question, it has like 12 commas in it. It's like Jeff Sessions getting a question at a congressional interview. It's got so many loops and paths to it. How in the world you're supposed to answer the question? Okay, let's see. And before I forget, because I'm not going to put this in the show because I don't want to get overwhelmed. But for those of you that are watching us live right now, if you will send an email to me, Tom at EasternShoreBroadcasting.com, and request a vMix mouse pad, vMix has said that I can send you a vMix mouse pad because I am their USA distributor for vMix mouse pads. So if you want a vMix mouse pad, send me an email, Tom at EasternShoreBroadcasting.com. And of course, you got to include your address, and we'll add you to our email list. But you'll also get a free vMix mouse pad. Okay, so we're now 4 minutes late. Nick, I'm sorry. This is pretty well.
We're running out of time. We're running out of time. It's
yeah, that's right.
Cutting too close.
We're burning daylight.
Yeah.
We're coming up on a hard break, as they say.
Yes,
okay.
Of course. Bottom of the hour.
That's right. All right. Let's see. Anything I've forgotten? Looks like we're in good shape here, good shape there. Nick's good. Okay. All right.
I'm going to send you an email, Tom. I need a fancy new vMix mouse.
Okay. Good. Love to send it to you. Okay. Well, let's get ready for the show here. Nick, I'm going to mute you for just a minute. No offense. And I'll try to remember to get you back on before I bring you in. But mute you right now. Okay, so let's go to here, and I think we're ready. Everybody ready? Here we go. Thumbs up. Welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and this is Streaming Idiots. You have come to the right place, or maybe the wrong place, as the case may be. You got here by accident. Hey, first of all, welcome to all you folks that are watching us live today on Facebook directly or YouTube. Come on over to EasternShoreBroadcasting.com. Click the Watch Live button. It's not Watch Lab. I have a Labrador Retriever in the family now. Click the Watch Lab button, and you can watch us and get in on the chat too, because the chat room's a really fun place to be. We're not monitoring the chat on YouTube. We're not monitoring the comments on Facebook. So come on over to EasternShoreBroadcasting.com and click Watch Live, and you can get in on the chat. It's going to be tons of fun. I'm really excited about my guest today, Nick Craig, with the Infection podcast. We're going to have to find out about that. But before we get to Nick, we've got a couple of tasks we've got to take care of. It's really going to be fun. Remember, NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters show, is coming up next month in April, beginning April 24th. If you would like a pass to the show, send me a note, Tom at EasternShoreBroadcasting.com. I've got a limited number of passes available. It'll save you $150. If you would like... the other calendar note is that the vMix meetup at StreamCon in Atlanta is June 7th, 8th, and 9th, and that's going to be Atlanta. We don't have a day-to-day schedule yet, and we don't have a venue yet, but we're working on all that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have some presenters, some speakers. Jim Jacobs is going to roll his OB trailer over and show us all that stuff. So it's going to be worth your trip. Hope you can make that. Streaming Idiots celebrates 3 years on the air or over the wire or whatever we want to call it. Last week was the beginning of our 4th year, Streaming Idiots. Can you believe that? Idiots have lasted this long. Not only that, but Eastern Shore Broadcasting, kind of our parent organization, Eastern Shore Broadcasting, between the Streaming Idiot show and all the tutorials that we do and the demos that we do and the old VidBlaster guy shows, we finally hit the 500,000 mark in views. We hit 500,000 views this week. So that two milestones to celebrate with that. I also want to give a shout out to all the folks that joined our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/streaming idiots, and you're welcome to join. There's a great conversation that goes on all week. In fact, it probably goes on about 24/7 because there's so many folks from different parts of the world that have joined. But folks that have joined just since last week, I want to give a shout out to these 32 guys and ladies. Carlos Phoenix, Reginald Fiera Jr., Mike Jones, Rui Piera da Costa, and if I mispronounce your name, my apologies. Enka Naji, Will Tu, Lente Ja, Patrick Campbell, Luis Nobre, Goodson Vertharaj, Jason Edwards, Nikolai Kanik, Jeff Burkhart, Andrew McMichael, Abi Rajabi, Hubert Gabon, Michael Cancelere, Blake Turner, Bender Cordos, DJ Wolf, Alex Oliveira, Tasso Kaosomboris, Hugh Path, Robert Myers, Dwayne Horn, Martin Ramirez, Walter Perot, Stephen Healy, Andrew Zarian, Gerbot Olof, John Guana, and Irene Chan. Welcome to all of you. We're glad to have you with us. Come on in to Streaming Idiots. Now that you've joined, make a post. Introduce yourself. Tell folks where you're from, what kind of streaming you do. Let's start the conversation and keep the conversation going. There was a lot of great posts on that today. And again, that's Facebook, Facebook/groups/streaming idiots. So you won't want to miss that. It's really a ton of fun. This whole internet stuff is a ton of fun, isn't it? We finally kind of, in my mind, we've kind of finally reached that point where we're seeing the promise of what was promised so far ago. And part of the promise in my mind is that I can take this 20-year-old guy from New York and I can bring him into my broadcast as if he were right here in the studio with me. It's just amazing. Welcome. Big round of applause for Nick Craig. Nick, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Tom, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
And Nick, you're coming to us from I'm sorry, you told me before, from Albany?
Albany, New York. Yes,
Albany, New York.
Albany,
New York, all the way down to little Fairhope, Alabama. And we're connecting in beautiful video. You're coming in 720p to me at about 1.5 megabits per second. It seems to fluctuate up and down. Of course, that's the internet. The internet's always ebbing and flowing, kind of like the ocean. We're getting a lot of claps here in the chat room. In fact, somebody's accusing you of being in a fake studio.
You never know.
That you're really next door in the next room to me. Yeah,
there's a lot of fake stuff going around these days, so you never know.
We flew him down here to Alabama so that he could be on the show today. So, Nick, you and I have been around streaming for quite a while. I mean, I've got the gray hairs to prove it, but you not only have no gray hairs, you have all your hair, which a lot of the folks can't say. Tell me how in the world you got involved in streaming from the very beginning.
We've been connected and been together in groups for, probably 2012, 2011. Kind of, It seemed to be around the start of Google Hangouts is what kind of culminated the whole original streaming group of people that were all interested in that stuff. And those are much simpler times. But I've been podcasting and broadcasting, video game live streaming for probably 7 or 8 years now. Since I was in high school when I was actually, I may have even been in middle school when I first started this stuff. It was that long ago. So I've been around this stuff for quite a while now.
That's cool. And you grew up. I guess you were gaming before you were streaming.
Yes, yeah, I've been playing video games for as long as I can remember. With my father, my uncle, we always had a couple game systems around, and it eventually translated into what was Justin TV at the time. Had a really large game streaming audience. They took that large audience on Justin TV, moved that over to Twitch TV, and then a couple years down the road, killed off Justin TV. But now Twitch, I mean, owned by Amazon, sold for a crazy amount of money. So something's working with the video game streaming. It seems to be very successful for a lot of companies, including Amazon, I guess.
That amazes me. That amazes me that people would sit down and watch somebody else's game. I guess it's in lieu of watching the evening news, which that's probably a pretty good trade.
Well, what I've found out over this time is it's not the game that's so important. It's the personality. When you watch somebody play a video game or something like that, you're not watching them to see the game. You're watching them because of their personality. And they're entertainers when it comes down to it. They're not, sitting in front of a screen with a hoodie up and the room all dark playing a game. They've got a whole production going on. They've got green screens and notifications popping up. It's a full-on production that they're doing, and it's entertaining to watch. You have to have a good personality to do something like that.
Now, you've got this podcast that you're working on, the Infection Podcast, which immediately grabbed my attention. I'm like, what in the world is... tell me what's going on with that.
So Infection Podcast started back January of 2015 around the game H1Z1. See that little marquee on the wall up there. And we were originally we were a podcast that only talked about the game H1Z1, and that was back in January of 2015, and we've stuck with it since. We have never missed a week of the show. We were on episode 112. We did 112 last night, and we have done a show every single week since January 6th or 8th of 2015. And what we do now is we talk about all things survival video games. And that's what we've been doing every week. It's a 2-hour live show that takes place on Tuesday night. And similar to yourself, we've got a chat room of people and just a great community that we've accumulated over that amount of time that is really interested in what we're able to produce and what we do.
And so every week for 2 years, you've done that show. That's amazing.
And it's not me. I can't take the credit for this. This is all Brian Aldridge, who's my co-host on the show from Boise Computer, is the one that was originally on me every week. We got to do it. We got to do it. We got to do it. And now it's just second nature. I know every Tuesday I have something going on every Tuesday night, and it's Infection Podcast.
And that's a date. I mean, and now where is he? Is he close by?
Now he's all the way out in Boise, Idaho. So we are almost as far as we could possibly be apart in the United States. And we just, what we did originally was we used Skype and OBS was how we originally started off. It was just a double shot like you have for us, and that was the show. It originally started as 45 minutes. That turned into an hour and a half, and then 2 hours, and we pretty much have done 2 hours straight for over 100 episodes now, which has been pretty amazing.
Now tell me about your audience. You obviously you have an interactive chat with them, and they're pitching you ideas and telling you where you're screwing up, kind of like this crowd we've got here.
Well, and it's interesting because you mentioned your Facebook page at the beginning on how that's a 24-hour conversation. We use a similar service, kind of a chat service called Discord. And there's actually a Streaming Idiots Discord channel. If you go on the Facebook page, there's a channel for that.
Yep.
And so 24 hours a day, we're connected with our fans on Discord. And Brian and I are frequent users in there. And then come showtime Tuesday night, everybody jumps over to the Twitch TV chat room. And we chat in there. And then right after that, they're back to gaming in Discord. So it's great because if you look back, Tom, even 5 years, you were connected with your audience during the show with IRC or something like that, and then you didn't hear from them until the next show, the next week, the next month, however often you did your show. But now with Facebook groups and services like Discord and TeamSpeak, you're connected with them all the time, which I think really helps drive the community aspect of the show.
Well, and you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, what you're doing is you're building a community of like-minded individuals, and you end up talking about all sorts of things besides the one thing that sort of brought you together. And I don't know about you, but after 3 or 4 years, you develop relationships with these folks that you've never met in person. Maybe you've never even had a Skype conversation with them. You've just chatted in a chat room, but yet there's a relationship there. I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. And in fact, I had the occasion, it's probably been a couple years ago, to drive from Alabama up to Virginia. And I go right through North Carolina. And I stopped over in Charlotte to visit Amnon because he and I had been chatting back and forth and talking over the phone, but we'd never met. And so we got to meet. In fact, I've been by his house and seen his studio and talked with him. I think we had coffee another time. But it was just, I felt like I knew the guy. I mean, never laid eyes on him before in my life. But I felt like we were buds, brothers in a way. It's an amazing, amazing experience. I don't know that I'll be able to make it to New York, though.
Unless you're going to Canada.
Unless I'm going to Canada.
But yeah, actually, well, it's funny you say that, Tom, because actually tomorrow I am meeting Brian Aldridge, my co-host, and one of our fans out in Boston for PAX East. So I'm packing up and driving out there tomorrow morning. Brian's flying in from Boise, and we have a friend flying in from Florida. And we're all going to converge on Boston tomorrow morning and go to the PAX show for the weekend. So it's that same kind of experience where Brian and I have known each other for probably 5 or 6 years over online, and he's a great friend. But it's not an in-person relationship, but it's amazing that you can have such a close relationship with somebody like that over the internet. It's pretty amazing.
Yep. Now, and so you guys have not yet met in person? This will be the first time. Wow.
This will be the first time.
Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. This is so cool. And the thing about this too, Nick, is it's almost, in some ways, it's not intended, but it's almost an underground community. It's not really out there like, going downtown. I don't know what Albany's like, but my little town of Fairhope, all 15,000 of us, we go downtown for parades. Our town is so small that the parade has to go through the town and then snake back through the other direction. Because the town's not big enough to take the whole parade. But it's really nice because you get to see the parade 2 or 3 times depending on where you stand. Anyway, sorry about that. That didn't have anything to do with it. Well, have you ever been out to NAB in Las Vegas?
No, this is actually my first convention. I mean, PAX is a convention.
Right.
I've been looking to go out to NAB for a couple of years now,
Right.
but this just seemed to make more sense with what we're doing.
Well, in Boston's just, 4 hours, 5 hours away?
Not even. It's like 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay.
It's fairly close, which made it great for me, and it totally cut down on our cost. Instead of all 3 of us having to fly to pick Texas, all 3 of us would have to fly to Texas. At least we can cut down on costs a little bit with having one person drive. But I will get out to NAB. It's only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time. Well, I see your buddy Mike Phillips is in the chat room giving you a hard time. Said that your mother doesn't let you cross the street, so.
No, not at all. She's actually going to drive me and then drop me off and then drive all the way back.
And Mike needs to be careful making fun of somebody about his age. I mean, as old as he is, it's.
Well, I've got another one of these stories too. I actually went down to New York City last summer to hang out with Andrew Zarian, another friend in this underground community, and it was the same kind of story. We've known each other online for years, and we went to a Mets game, and it was and sure, Tom, you could speak to this, but it's like you know the person as well as somebody that lives next door to you.
Sure. Better
with being
probably.
Always connected. Better, yeah, even better. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the whole technology. Now tell me, when you're doing your show, what night is it on? Wednesdays?
It's Tuesday night,
Tuesday night.
at 7 p.m.
Okay, so you just did it last night.
Yep.
Tell me about the setup that you use to do your show.
So we use vMix. We've been using vMix, I would say probably for a year and a half. We started out with the
Oh,
OBS.
wow.
It was a very simple
Okay.
production.
Uh-huh.
We just wanted. It was actually the show originally was catered more towards audio, so the video was just kind of a plus.
Gotcha.
And then since then we've transitioned into doing more advanced video stuff, and with that we had to switch from OBS, which is this was pre-OBS Studio, so this was just original OBS, one scene, no preview, which was pretty primitive when you look at something with especially OBS Studio and vMix, with the the different transitions and all the stuff you can do. So we've been using vMix now for about a year and a half. Brian Skypes in. I use Nutex NDI software to capture him and bring him into the show, and then I use the same software to capture my main monitor to show YouTube videos and other things on the screen. For the most part, it's not crazy advanced. We don't have any motion graphics. We still try to cater our show more towards audio if possible, because it turns out, at least in our group, most people listen to the show, or most people have the show up and are at work and have it in a different tab. So we try to not do as much like, hey, take a look at this, or hey, take a look at that. We try to explain as much as we can for people that are listening in their cars, and we do have a lot of people that listen in their cars or listen on the train or whatever else. So the video isn't too crazy, but it's a pretty, I look at my vMix profile and I go, how do I have 150 shots in this vMix profile? But stuff just builds up and things get layered on top of each other. But I'm really impressed with the vMix call functionality that you're using right now, and I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks to be able to bring that into our broadcast as well.
Well, my experience is, and you got to remember, the reason I named this show is because it's really true. I am not the brightest bulb on the shelf, and I know some people would argue with me about that. It's kind of say, "Come on, Tom! Not only you're not the brightest bulb, you're the dimmest bulb on the shelf." But using vMix Call was so blasted easy. When I think about what I used to have to do to bring in a caller on Skype or Zoom, the video was the easy part. It was the audio that had to thread through 2 or 3 different connections, where I was hooking up essentially a speaker in Skype to a microphone in vMix, and they didn't plug into each other. So you have to, and I do a lot of in my job. At Eastern Shore Broadcasting, I'm doing a lot of training with folks that buy vMix and buy the custom systems from me that have vMix on them. So I'm teaching people how to use it. And for folks that are not computer savvy, trying to connect them with virtual audio cables was like speaking a foreign language for sure. It was just, you could see their, I'd be talking to them on the phone and I could still see their eyes glaze over. It was that bad. And vMix Call makes all that go away. All you do is add an input, you send somebody the password, and they can join from their phone, they can join from anything that has a browser, has a Chrome browser or Firefox browser, and suddenly, pow, they're in. And as you can see, it's a great looking image. What do we got now? We're still 720 at about 1.5 megabits per second. Tommy says his eyes are still glazed over. So.
Yeah, and you can see my shot here for people that are watching the video. Having a hardware mixer for doing that advanced stuff is so important. And Tom, you'd be proud of this. I'm one man and one machine. I have one computer. I've got one computer for this setup. I've got 5 screens attached to it, but I'm doing everything on one computer. So the audio can get a little bit tricky with USB sound cards. Actually, 3 USB sound cards. Everything all intertwined and connected together. But you're spot on with the virtual audio cables. It's a mess to deal with, especially with somebody that isn't super familiar with it. I'm sure if I had to install and set up virtual audio cables right now, it would take me a couple minutes to try to get familiar with it, because it's a real pain.
Well, I remember back in the pre-iron age, when Mike Phillips and I were growing up, and he was trying to explain to me about audio and explain to me about mix minus. It was beyond my ability to comprehend. And so I really do feel for folks that are coming into this now for the first time. As advanced as this little micro industry is today compared to 5 years ago, think of all the things they have to learn and do. Now tell me about your audio setup. I'm going to go back to the full shot, but what's over your right shoulder there?
So this is a Behringer Xenix 2442, and because I'm in studio by myself, I normally have two microphones connected to this one, and then I do another show that I have an in-studio guest for. So I've got that, and then over on the corner here are just all of my inputs. I've got 3 inputs coming in from my main desktop. One of those being regular audio from the computer, the Windows sounds, and then 2 Skype or other service, Google Hangout sounds coming in as well. It's not a crazy setup, but Tom, you talk about mix minus. Imagine trying to retroactively set up your mix minuses when you're going out on remote. And we do a show we go away as a family for vacation every year, and we still do the episode of Infection. But I retroactively set up the mixer and I Skype myself and switch over TeamViewer back in. So you can only imagine what the complexity of that audio is in trying to set it up beforehand, not physically being in front of the mixer. And you're right, it's a real pain for people that are just getting into it. But once you understand it, and of course Mike Phillips is the one that finally sat down and talked me through mix minus. Once you understand it, it's a no-brainer. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But it's like algebra. Until you understand it, it doesn't make any sense. It's like being pregnant. You can't be halfway pregnant. You can't halfway understand mix minus. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you need to understand it, because the problem you run into without fully understanding mix minus, luckily for Skype, for a lot of beginners, that I think does an automatic mix minus still, but it's unreliable. You can't always guarantee, and you can't. Tom, if you were sending me back my audio now, a second and a half delayed, I'd be stumbling over every other word hearing
Sure.
myself delayed back.
Sure.
So you definitely don't want to put somebody in a situation where they're hearing themselves back delayed, because they can't talk. You won't be able to get a sentence out because your brain is trying to process your already said audio that you're hearing back,
Right.
which just doesn't work out too well.
Right. Yeah, I think Skype and Zoom too use a noise cancellation type process, and that's why when you and this used to annoy me on the Skype and Zoom calls is when I would accidentally interrupt my speaker, my guest. One of our audios would drop out, and so there would just be that one audio, and the other person was just talking into air. But having the ability to do full duplex means that that we can talk on top of each other, and everybody gets to hear it. Not that you want to, and actually, I think the latency between you and I today is probably pretty good. When I had Giles Warham on the show from England a couple of weeks ago, we had probably about a half a second one way across the Atlantic Ocean, and so another half a second back, and so there would be some almost uncomfortable pauses in that. And I know Martin Sinclair, my 19th cousin, who is the developer of vMix, has been working hard to get the latency down. And today, it's almost like you and I are having a phone conversation. In fact, with my phone, I have latency on the phone that causes me to interrupt, people that I'm talking to. So I'm pretty excited.
Well, it's pretty crazy because we talk about latency we talk about half a millisecond latency or half a second latency over the internet. When you look back 20 years, that conversation was impossible, or maybe even 10 years. Maybe not 10 years, but 20 years probably. That conversation was much more complex. But the fact that you can pull somebody in using a whole bunch of services, Google Hangouts, anything from across the world, and have a conversation in which you're not hearing the person 2 years later with delay, is pretty amazing.
That's right. That's right. Folks, if you're just joining us, this is Nick Craig with the Infection Podcast, and this is Eastern Shore Broadcasting bringing you Streaming Idiots. If you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube and you're wondering, who is Tom talking to when he makes these side comments, like Mike Phillips being old and stuff like that? Well, there's a chat room attached to this, and if you'll go to easternshorebroadcasting.com and click the Watch Live tab, you can get in on the chat room too. And it's Eastern Shore Broadcasting right down there below my name, and then just add a com to the end of it, and that'll get you to the website. And we're resellers for vMix and Magwell and X Keys, and we've just brought our own line of streaming PCs to market called Live Streaming Gear, and we'll be introducing those at NAB. In fact, the vMix booth at NAB will be using our live streaming gear PCs, and in fact, I heard the other day they've already loaned one of them out to Teradek. So we're getting that out here. So, but if you're interested in having a live streaming PC that's ready to go, not something that you have to configure yourself, shoot me a note, Tom at easternshorebroadcasting.com. Or if you're interested in vMix or any of the other products, go to easternshorebroadcasting.com and see more about it. Sorry, Nick had to get that little commercial in there somewhere.
Hold on, Tom, because this is important. You turned your hobby of doing stuff on the internet into your full-time job. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's something that is very rare in this bubble that we talk about, the broadcasting and podcasting bubble. There are not many people that can say, "Hey, I turned my once a week broadcast into something that I also do as my full-time job." So I've got to give props to you for being able to swing that, because it's pretty amazing.
Well, I mean, I'm an old guy, and it's not my first rodeo in terms of starting a business, and I understand about how the business part of it works. And so many folks that I see, they have a podcast or they have a broadcast, and they've done 5 months worth of shows, and it's like, okay, how can I monetize this broadcast, this podcast? I.e., how can I get people to pay me to do it? Well, you've got to provide value. Whatever it is, you've got to provide expertise, or you've got to provide products, or you've got to help them use a product that they already have better. You've got to add some value to it so that people will see that it's worthwhile to spend money on it, whatever it is. There are a lot of folks that have podcasts that have subjects that are very, very interesting to people, and so they'll do a funding campaign for the podcast, and that's pretty much a direct way. But I came through kind of both a retail and a service background, and so for me it seemed like, what we've got to do is we've got to provide a service or a product that people want, and what better way to advertise it than to use it and say, this is what it looks like. This is what you can do. And, when you say taking a hobby and turn it into a full-time job, that means for me that I don't have to work for the rest of my life. I get to play like this every day. Somebody says, Tom, I want you to take one of your off-the-shelf live streaming gear PCs, and we need you to do this to it and this to it and this to it, i.e. turn it into a custom PC. Throw me into that briar patch. Man, there is nothing I like better than taking apart a PC and reconfiguring it and putting it back together and making it do exactly what they want, so that when they open up the box and they plug in the keyboard and plug in the mouse and plug in the monitor and plug in the internet and plug in the camera, everything works today, not 3 weeks from today. And I remember back in the bad old days, taking an off-the-shelf Dell PC. What was it? It was a dual core, and I was crazy, and I got an upgraded CPU for it. So I went from 1.2 gigahertz to 1.7 gigahertz or whatever it was, and all that's gone. So thank you for mentioning that. It's been a ton of fun to do it, and I talk to folks every day. I was talking to Alex this morning about what they were trying to do. They're trying to get rid of their TriCaster at their church and upgrade to the next system. And what are some strategies for being able to make that smooth transition without having to write out a check for $20,000? So it's a charge. I mean, it's like you guys on Tuesday nights. You would do that, and if somebody would pay you to do it, you'd still do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't
Well, and
go
that's
out
the
and spend
interesting.
a bunch of
That's the
money, and
interesting thing.
you do the same show.
Exactly, and that's the interesting thing is from day one, Brian and myself made it very clear we were not doing this to make any money. And previously, for other shows, I had started them in hopes to make money, and guess what? I'm not doing them anymore. So that speaks to it. But from day one, we set out not to make any money. Not to not make any money, but not to do the show to get a check from some advertiser. But we did actually crowdfund our trip to Boston next week.
Great idea.
Which was a way that in which back in October of this year, October, November, we did actually a contest for No Shave November where Brian was growing out this big beard. He'd been growing it for 9 months. And when people donated, it was something like $5 or $10, they would get to pick what he shaved his beard into. And we had a whole bunch of different options available. And we were able to raise $500, which is going to cover our hotel room at PAX tomorrow. So, we didn't set out to make any money with the show, but the fact that we were able to crowdfund our trip and at least the hotel part of it is great. It was something that I would not have been going to PAX without the help of our community making that. But we had been providing content for 2 years to some of these people, and
Sure.
I think for them it was a no-brainer. Okay, let's throw these guys $10. Let's throw
Absolutely.
$20.
Yeah.
Seemed like a no-brainer.
Yeah, yeah. And I was reading the other day, and I wish I could remember because I give them credit for it, but they said if you can have, whatever you're doing, if you can have 1,000 fans, you can be completely underwritten. Because if 1,000 of your fans will spend $100 with you a year, that's $100,000. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers are simple at that point. You say, okay, well, all I have to do is get more fans. In this case, I'm stuck with this bunch, so it's just like, oh my gosh, the folks that watch this show are the people that weren't allowed to watch other shows. Now, I'm insulting them, but I love them. I mean, when I look in there, I see names down there, and I'm seeing names, and these are people that I've talked with, people that I've communicated with, people that I've fussed at, and people that have fussed at me, and that's the way communities are. I love it. Oh, and Tommy Willis is saying that he loves me in the chat room.
There you go.
But Chris is saying, who's got $100 to send to Tom?
It's funny though, because I think we are moving away. If we look back at podcasting, 2010, it was Leo Laporte and Twit. They were the podcasters,
absolutely,
at the point in time. And the way that they made money was by doing pre-roll and live reads during their shows.
Yes.
And 2007, that was before the days of Kickstarter and Indiegogo and this crowdfunding effort. But I honestly believe the next set of successful monetarily is what I'm going for here. The next set of successful podcasters, it's going to be more of a crowdfunded Patreon way, which it just makes more sense because you look at it, there's only so many Audible affiliate codes out there. There's only so many GoDaddy affiliate codes out there. Right. That stuff has got a limit to it. There's only so many people that buy domain names. There's only so many people that can do a 2-week free trial. And it just seems if you can build a community of people that are really interested and really involved, like you've got 60 people in the chat right now. Now, these people went out of their way to stop what they were doing to tune in. If you can do that, I don't see why something like Patreon can't work for the next set of podcasters and broadcasters that come along, because the main advertising is slipping away for even TV and radio. The advertisers are pulling out. I mean, look at the Super Bowl this year. The commercials, they're not what they were in the past. They're not what they were.
I agree completely. I love having you on this show, and we've got to get you back on the show, because you are bringing an element to this discussion that I don't generally consider, which is, monetizing by being directly paid for your audience just to be there. I mean, I know my audience pretty well, and I can't think of too many of them that would pay to have me on the air. I mean, half of these guys are probably asleep right now anyway. The other half are at work, but they had to, mute the monitor so they could get some real work done. So it may say that there are a bunch of people in the chat room, but there are only 2 or 3 of them that are really paying attention.
Well, and the interesting thing here, Tom, is the way that we did it wasn't, hey, give us money because we do this show and you watch it. It was, here's a game. We're going to put this game in front of you. And I mean, look at how successful the lottery is. I mean, look at how many people go to the gas station to buy a ticket to scratch it off with a coin. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to turn the monetization into a game. And that's what we did back in October. We said the only way we are going to raise $500 to go on this trip is if we give somebody an incentive to donate. And saying, hey, give us some money so we can go on our trip,
Right.
wasn't going to cut it. We needed we needed to gamify it, and that's the way it works. You have to give somebody something for their donation.
That's right. What's in it for me? That absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And here with this show, Streaming Idiots, what I've said is what's in it for me is I get to come on this show every week, which I just love, and I get to share things that I love talking about, and people get to benefit by that. And the result of that is, and the same thing has happened to you, is that I've been elevated from, well, in my case, I've been elevated from idiot to streaming idiot, but for most people, they've been elevated in whatever their field is. They're now the next notch up as an expert because they have a show about it. And so it legitimizes whatever their opinion is about that particular industry. In this case, it's streaming. And what's fun for me is, I'll be in a chat room or I'll be, reading a thread on something, and somebody will have an opinion, and they'll spout out an opinion, and they'll say, well, wait, that's my opinion. I said that 6 months ago on the show, and it's now circulated through the industry. And I realize, I'm having an impact. I got to be really careful about what I say. I want to make sure I'm accurate and true and honest. And that's, and all of those things are a struggle for me, especially the accurate part. Gee whiz.
Well, and the other thing too, before we can move on off the monetization stuff. For example,
Yes.
now, 2 years ago, what I would do is when a new video game came out, I'd have to open up my wallet, pull up my debit card, and type it in and buy the game. And now we are just getting a new game is getting ready to come out, and an email's popping up in my inbox saying, "Here's the code to my game. Redeem it and talk about it."
Right.
And that's, again, now that's not going to pay my bills. That's not going to pay my car payment or my insurance, but that allows us to continue doing this show. And instead of investing $300 a year into games to talk about, maybe we're investing $100 now. And I'm getting free games. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, we didn't set out to make money with this, and now I'm getting games thrown at me. And I'm sure when we're out at PAX, companies are going to be saying, here's a key for our game, here's a key for this. Because it doesn't cost them anything to give you a key. It's the same thing with software.
Not only does it not cost them, it benefits them.
Yes, and I think that's when you look at a traditional advertising, right? It's dollars in exchange for views or eyeballs. But with virtual currency like a video game, it's completely different because it costs them no more if they give you a key than selling it. It doesn't cost them any money to click generate in a piece of software to give you a key. The money's already been invested.
Right.
So that's, I think, another place that this is going as well, is that things are now so virtualized that you can now you're getting free stuff because it doesn't cost the company anything to give it to you. It's free.
Well, and what you've done, Nick, is you have grown your persona and your on-air presence to the point where you are now an influencer. You are influencing other people's opinion. You're shaping their opinion. And you are a valuable part in the whole marketing game of getting a product to market and making people like it and want it. And so if they can get your, maybe not your endorsement, but if they can get your critique where you say, I like this, don't like this, really like this, hate this, then they can go fix the things that need to be fixed and bring a product to market that they know people are going to accept because you're, I won't say endorsing it, but you're endorsing it. The
Well,
same
and
thing
that's the
happens
thing
for
is,
me.
well,
Go ahead.
and that's the thing to be careful with is because somebody sends me
Yep.
a key to their game, I don't instantly go out on Tuesday night and say, this is the best game I've ever played.
Right.
Everybody needs to buy it.
Right.
Throughout this entire process, we have been brutally. I went on probably a 15-minute rant on yesterday's show saying how much I hated this game that we were talking about, and we were just ridiculing the game, ridiculing the company. But they know it's the truth, and they still have people from the company still listen to our show and stay in touch with us from time to time. But it's the truth. We're not making things up. We're saying it the way it is, and just because we're talking about it means something.
Yep. Yep. It does. It does. It does. Cool. This is a great discussion. Great discussion. Nick, we're out of time. We're up on a hard break. No, just teasing. But
Okay.
I do want to thank you for taking time out to come on the show today. I hope you'll hang out for the post show afterwards. We do have refreshments. The guys in the chat room will be serving mixed nuts, and I'll have lemonade. But where can people get more information about what you're doing if they're interested? They can go to infectionpodcast.com.
Yeah, and actually super important because we're traveling this week. If you follow us on Twitter, which is @InfectionCast, CAST, there's a link on the website for that. We're going to be posting updates, pictures, quick little video hits up on Twitter throughout the next couple of days while we're out in Boston. So that's kind of the best way to follow us. We have a Discord community as well. If you use Discord, and we've got YouTube and all those other cool places. So everything is on our website, infectionpodcast.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there's probably 20 icons of different places that were around the internet. So you can check all that stuff out.
Awesome. 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 I love it. I love it. Nick, hang out for a second because I know the guys have got some questions for you. Folks,
Will do.
wasn't that great to have Nick on there? I tell you what, he is so bright and so articulate. And if you need more information, go on over to infectionpodcast.com. And from there, you can get to all the different things that he was talking about. Really great, really great. Glad to have him. If you're watching live, hang out with us for the post show. If you're watching in YouTube or on Facebook, come on over to easternshorебroadcasting.com and click the Watch Live tab, and you can get in on the chat and see and you can post your question for Nick and for me too. Next week, we will not be having a Streaming Idiot show, but if anybody is interested, well, no, that's for the week after. Anyway, no show next week. We'll be coming back in 2 weeks. And our guest is TBA. All right, TBA is our guest next week, so we'll have to see about that. Somebody in the chat room is saying "ta-da," so there it is, right there. You were waiting for that. Thank you so much for watching today. If you're catching us on YouTube after the fact and you've made it this far in the broadcast, then you're hooked. You may as well subscribe and get it over with. And also, don't forget to come on over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/groups/streamingidiots, and ask to join, and you can get in on a conversation 24/7. We'd love to have you as a part of that. So, on behalf of the whole Streaming Idiot crew, thank you for tuning in today. We hope to see you again in 2 weeks when we're back in the air. Make your plans to visit me at the vMix booth at NAB in April, and if you're in the Atlanta area in June, come on by StreamCon for the vMix meetup, and I'd love to meet you there too. So, I guess that's about it. Is that it? I'm looking to all the producers and directors here in the studio, just getting the nod from them that I've covered everything. Okay, looks like I have. So, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Take care now. And we are out. Let's see if I can
Awesome.
find. Did I lose Nick? Nope, there he is.
I'm
All
still
right.
here.
And we are in post show. You can tell because it says post show right there.
Ah, yes. The post show is typically, at least for our show, is better than the actual show itself. People seem to enjoy the post show better than they do the regular show.
I think so too. I think so too. So if you guys have got questions for Nick or questions for me, lay them on out there in chat. We're getting some pats on the back there, so that's really nice.
I've got a little something for show and tell, Tom.
Oh, now you pull it out. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting for all of the camera geek people. This is our rig that we're bringing to PAX this week. This is a Nikon D800E, and we've got a Roland R26 recorder for the audio, and then an LED light pack on top here. Unfortunately, because due to bandwidth limitations, we wanted to stream the event, but we're just going to have to record to SD card and upload it later. But I don't know. People seem to be interested in camera gear like this, so this is our rig that I'll be traveling with tomorrow.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So give us the specs on the cameras again, because people are out there with pen and paper right now writing this down.
It's a Nikon D800E is the camera itself. The audio recorder is a Roland R26, and then just a LED light, $30 LED light panel off Amazon. Whatever the cheapest one that was on Amazon is what this is. It takes, I think, takes 6 AA's. But yeah, this is our rig we're working with tomorrow.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. All right. Let's see. Tommy Tommy said, Nick, did you ever play SOCOM 3?
Yes, I believe SOCOM 3 was the PS2 game, and I did play
okay.
SOCOM 3.
Okay.
That's way back in time.
That's way back. Kenny wants to know about your mic.
The mic, I'm right now I'm using right now I'm using a Heil PR40, and for PAX we're using an ATR 2100, of course, Mike Phillips, the mic he swears by. Got our mic flag here that I have to still put stickers on. Yep, there it is. So we've got it all rigged up for the show. So
Awesome.
and this is the other thing too. That was kind of important to us, is to have the audio on the recorder and have the audio on the camera as well, having some type of redundancy, because we were originally just going to feed the microphone right into the camera, but that's, if something happens with the video, everything is gone. So we're recording audio separately so that we can sync it up in post-production. And worst case scenario, if something happens with the microphone audio, there's the internal mic, which won't be the greatest, but it'll be better than no interview at all.
That's right. Kenny, the mic that Nick is using in the field is the Audio Technica ATR 2100. And it's actually a fairly unique mic because it has XLR and USB connections. So you can use it with your regular mixer on XLR, or you can plug it directly into your PC via USB. Really cool. It's got a volume control here. Also has the ability to plug in some earbuds or a headset for monitoring. And it has a handy dandy on-off switch, which of course you need to tape in the on position or else.
Yes, and of course the great blue LED that is placed on there as well.
Oh
which you
yeah,
have to
yeah,
put some
yeah,
gaff tape over.
yeah.
But the great thing about that mic is when I'm on the road doing a show, if I'm on the road doing a show, I don't need to pack a mixer. I can use the same microphone and just plug it into video, which I don't like doing. I like to be able to monitor myself and hear myself back, but it definitely beats packing a mixer and headphone amp and USB sound cards and all that other stuff.
Yep.
So it's a great versatile mic, and it's not expensive. It's pretty reasonable.
And Amnon has put a link in the chat to a knockoff of that mic made by a company called Knox that looks to be almost the exact same mic, but $20, $30 cheaper.
And I can actually speak to if you're one of the very few that still has a Radio Shack in your town, Radio Shack sells a USB mic that is exactly the same as it's internal as the ATR 2100.
Really?
It's
Uh-huh.
about $15. And we're bringing that as a backup to
Wow.
our ATR 2100. If you can find it, if you have a Radio Shack, it's called like the Radio Shack USB mic, and it looks exactly like an
Sexy
ATR
name.
2005. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course, typical Radio Shack branding.
Yeah, that's
Which Radio Shack, whatever the product is called after it. Somebody asked, Rick asked how far away I am from RPI. I am probably 10 minutes from RPI, which is the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which is a big engineering school. Actually, I was over at RPI last weekend. So,
Gotcha. Mike Phillips says to throw the Radio Shack mic into your kit with all your other mics. No, he said throw it in the
yeah,
trash can.
that's exactly what he says. It's crazy though that the Audio Technica mic has so many people are making it because it's just some Chinese. It's just a Chinese product that Audio Technica is selling, and you can get it, for half the price from someone else. And it looks exactly the same button, same light. So it's pretty interesting.
It's an amazing time we live in. Amazing time we live in. Indeed.
Oh, and the
All right.
Samsung Q1U is also the same. Yes.
Okay. There you go. All right. Very good. Other questions, guys? Got a good group of folks.
When are you going out? When is NAB, Tom?
NAB
Third week in April?
is the third week in April.
Gotcha.
Starts on Monday the 24th. Let me get my calendar up here. So yeah, actually that's the fourth week in April. Starts Monday and goes through Thursday. And
Is that your first time going out?
I was actually there last year.
Oh, were you?
For
Okay.
the very first time. And it was really fun because the vMix guys had set up a studio in their booth. They had a green screen, they had a stage, they had lighting, they had some monitors that showed what was going on in the studio, and they invited me to come do my Wednesday show, this show, out there last year. And that was just a blast. I mean, it would technically, I didn't have all my same stuff in front of me, so I was fumbling all over the place. But it was so cool. It was the first time I'd met Martin. And so I got to interview him on his stage, of course, and it was a real treat. And so I hung around the vMix booth a lot, just soaking up the atmosphere, and popped over and saw the PTZ Optics folks and hung out there, and the Magewell folks and hung out there, and went and asked questions of the Blackmagic folks, and just basically all the streaming people were in the same hall. And so got to do that. Got to meet folks from all over the world. In fact, there were two guys from Nigeria. I thought they were going to pull some Nigerian scam on me, but they said, no, we watch your show. I said, in Nigeria? They said, yeah, we love it. We work for churches, and we've learned so much. So that was fun. So this year, the vMix guys said, well, we really we liked it when you were around, and we didn't like it when you weren't. So we want you to come back and work the show. So they sent me 5 vMix shirts, and for the price of 5 vMix shirts, I'm going to go out there and work the show. I think I probably will wear one of those shirts here before too long. It's really nice. Unfortunately, it has a little, vMix has got that little green in the logo, so you can't wear it in front of the green screen, or else it...
Yeah. You have a hole in your chest, a bullet wound or something.
That's right. And they fixed that by putting green on their backdrop, on the picture that is behind them, so that it shows through green instead of showing through whatever it is. It's pretty funny. But that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for that. I've talked to probably a dozen or so folks that I know are going to be out there. So it's always nice to see people you know. I think we're going to try to get a vMix meetup. I'm thinking maybe like Tuesday or Wednesday. Get a meetup out there so that folks that are there I guess you don't have to have a vMix meetup when you got a vMix booth, but just the idea that all the folks that really enjoy vMix that are associated with this show can kind of come together and meet each other and have some fun together. That's going to be good. Mike Phillips says he hasn't been to NAB since 1980. He was in the VidBlaster meetup back then.
Not much has changed, I guess.
That's right. Mike, you need to come to Atlanta for StreamCon. In fact,
Yeah,
Mike,
when
why
is
don't
that
you,
taking place?
that's in June. That's June 7th, 8th, and 9th. In fact, Mike, we need to get you to come to StreamCon to talk about audio. I'm going to send you an email about that. I think that would be so cool. That would be so cool.
I
Jerry
have to check
says
that out.
Jerry says the stream died. Chris says it's okay. Mike says send me a plane
Here.
ticket. Well, it's only Atlanta. How far is it from Raleigh to Atlanta? Like 4 hours? Maybe longer than that. You got to go through South Carolina. That's the problem. Mike doesn't want to drive through South Carolina. I don't blame him. No, I'm just teasing. I like South Carolina.
What's the URL for StreamCon?
Streamcon.net. Martin S. Yeah, Martin S. is our off-the-grid guy, and he's going to say, just walk, don't fly. Mike doesn't want to drive through Atlanta. I don't blame you, Mike. It's like driving through, some NASCAR racetrack to get through Atlanta. And this place will probably be on the south side near the airport. The idea would be that people that are going to fly in, we don't want them to have to taxi halfway across the city to get where they're going. So you'll be within a short transport ride of the airport. All right, Alexandra wants to know about NDI Cloud. Nick, you're going to have to catch that one because I don't have a clue.
I've never heard of that.
Okay. Well, we can't help you on NDI Cloud, but we'll have to get somebody on the show here in the future that can talk about NDI Cloud. In fact, I've been meaning to try to get Dr. Andrew Cross, the president at New Tech. I've been meaning to see if he would come on the show, so I might, if I bump into him at NAB, I might invite him. Apparently, he's a really nice guy, but I'm just so intimidated. I mean, it's taken me a year to get up the courage to ask you to get on the show, Nick.
Yeah, that's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, it is pretty unbelievable. All right, Prashana's got to go to bed because it's like 3 o'clock in the morning for him. So he's taken off there. Let's see. Ezekiel's in the chat room now. Rich is there. Who's there that wasn't there before? 937 is there. Henri and Blaze and Peter. Jerry, SU fan. Ken Richer. Hey, Ken. Glad to have you, my friend. Anderson's watching us from Barbados. Alan McBain is from Scotland, I think. North Carr. Kenny H. Matt B. Guest 640. You say, Tom, why are you skipping over those other folks? Well, I skipped over because I welcomed them earlier. Boris is here. Boris, if you can't get here on time, just show up when you can. Let's see. Mr. Cole is here. Welcome, sir. Dave, 8 Live TV. Welcome. Chuck Gooch. Glad to have you, Chuck. And Tom Griffith is here. Interesting story about Tom Griffith. Nobody knows this, not even Tom, I don't think. But but it may have happened to you. When I'm typing something in Facebook, the Streaming Idiots group, and I type in idiot, it tries to put Tom's name in there. You know how when you type in, Nick, it'll flash up Nick Craig's,
Yes.
And you can
Yeah.
approve it. Well, when I type in idiot, it flashes up Tom's name. Tom, I am so sorry, but I had to share that story. That is just too funny. Oh, just too funny. Nick, have you ever used a TriCaster?
Yes, actually. I was part of we did a $100,000 rebuild at our high school for our video studio, and we transitioned from the TriCaster studio, which was the SD one that ran XP that came out in probably 2005 or 6.
Okay.
Transitioned from that over to a TC40. But that was probably 2014 or 15 or so when those came out.
Okay.
And I mean, I think I saw somebody post on something about vMix being the TriCaster killer. I think they're meant for two different types of people. For education, they want something that they can. Money really wasn't an object. We were told here's $100,000, buy what you need to buy. We didn't need to watch our dollars and cents with that. We just bought what we needed to buy, and it seemed like a no brainer at that point in time to get something like a hardware solution, like the TriCaster.
Right.
When it comes down to it, it just worked. You could take high school kids that didn't have a lot of technical experience, sit them down in front of the control surface and say, you press the red one, it puts it in preview. If you press the red 2, it puts that in preview. You press take, it switches it live.
Right.
So for certain applications, I do think the TriCaster is still, and the ATEM and Grass Valley and all those other things are still necessary. But for the kind of stuff we're doing, I don't think a TriCaster is necessary at all.
Well, that is such an interesting comment because the key is your school was interested and they had a teacher or a staff person that had the technical knowledge to be able to teach it.
Yeah.
Our local high school had the same thing. They got this grant. They outfitted a whole studio. They did the black sound deadening curtains that went, from 20 feet in the air down to the ground. They got the cameras on the mobile tripods. It all hooked into a TriCaster, and nobody knew how to turn it on. And
Yeah.
it sat there.
And around that time, it was me and someone else that were kind of in charge of the project, the rebuild, and we looked at software solutions, and at the time it was Wirecast. I don't think anybody was. I don't even know when VidBlaster came out, or not VidBlaster, vMix came out. But at that time, we looked at something. It looked at Wirecast, and I said, "Well, great, I can set this up. I know my friend can set this up, but come 2 years or 3 years when I graduate." They're not going to have any clue what to do with Wirecast. I mean, what's going to happen when a Windows update breaks DirectX drivers and everything stops working?
Sure.
And that's part of the benefit of something like the TriCaster that's a locked down. I mean, that TriCaster studio I think is still running in that studio. It's been running for probably 10 years because it's a hardware solution that's completely locked down. It's very expensive, but for certain tasks, I think it works flawlessly.
Right. Amnon said that when he was in high school, his AV technology was a 16 millimeter projector.
Yeah, we did a lot. We produced a morning newscast every day. So we had teleprompters and scripts and the stuff we used to do. I have this picture. Tom, you're gonna love this. Oh, this is good. Let's see. Let me find my vMix scene. Here it is.
Well, while you're finding that, I have a question for Amnon. Did this projector have sound, or were these the silent movies? They were probably the silent movies. Oh, the wife has to leave because she has a job, and she's in Sweden where it's like 11 o'clock at night. So take off. Thank you so much for joining us. We're better when you're here.
So here we go. So this is our mobile solution that I had rigged together. This was a laptop, a Dazzle DVC100.
Oh yeah,
capture card.
Right.
Some type of handy cam with a component output.
Yeah.
A USB audio card, all shoved inside of a laptop bag with a power strip and a Behringer Xenix 302 zip tied to the outside. Set the computer to always stay on, and then you would use TeamViewer on your phone to remote into the computer to establish a Skype connection back to the studio. And that's how we would do our live remotes was with that little setup, and it worked. And it was a lot quicker than trying to wheel a cart throughout the school. Just throw it in a bag, throw it over your shoulder, and plug it in, and it was set to go.
Oh, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. I love it. I love it.
It was just cool stuff like that we were able to put together. I was fortunate to have that experience at my high school because it definitely gave me the option to play around with stuff like that. And this was before, anything with the tear deck. I don't even think tear deck cubes were out. There may have been something like that, but before all that stuff, this is how we did it with no money. We just that was my laptop and my mixer and my sound card and my capture card and my camera. It was all my stuff, and it worked. But
imagine that education taking place at a high school.
Yeah, exactly.
Kids learning stuff.
Yeah, not today, but it was a lot of fun, and definitely built on jerry rigging it together, because that's really what it came down to. Was they would come to us, hey, it originally started with, hey, we want the principal to be sitting in his office reading off athletes of the month or something like that. And I said, oh, okay, well, we can record it and play back. He goes, no, we want to do it live. So our original setup was the TriCaster studio on this big AV cart with cameras and all this other stuff. And we were able to actually switch from that. We would switch it and send it back. And then eventually it just transformed into a single camera with Skype. But, without him requesting that we do something like that, it never would have happened. We wouldn't have thought, hey, why do we want to go stand outside there's snow in that picture. I think it was snowing when we were doing that, doing that remote. We used to throw XLR cables out windows and have remotes across fields and shoot back from the studio. There was a lot of funny experiences that we had there. It was a lot of fun.
And that adds to the richness of your knowledge, having done all that. I mean, you know that there's almost no problem that can't be fixed, that you can't find a solution for if you just put your mind to it. And for young people, and I say young, teenagers, to begin to have that attitude inside of them that no matter what the situation is, I can figure it out. That's a life lesson that will take you through the next 70 years. Holy cow, I love it. I think I was probably in my 40s before I realized that. That we could, no matter what it is, I can figure out a solution. So I commend you on that. That's really cool. Martin
yeah,
S.
Of course
is talking about all your off the grid kind of stuff, because he loves to do that. Martin Sheen is in the chat room. Says it sounds like heaven to me.
And it was nice because we had, like you said, the administrators and we did get a lot of trouble from time to time. We a lot of trouble, like borderline getting kicked out of school. A lot of trouble, but we had a lot of fun doing it. So we had some crazy setups, but we enjoyed it, and our advisor was very upfront with it and was able to help us with stuff. So it was good.
No, that's great. That's the whole concept behind an education. Yep. I'm impressed. Well done, young man. Well done. And the other thing that impressed, while we're on the things that I'm impressed with about you, it really impressed me when I saw you taking part in that old guy technology show on Sunday mornings.
What show is that? I'm not familiar with that.
They don't remember the name of it either. That's the funny part about it. But Computers 2K now. And it was nice to have somebody there that could help them with their canes when they came in, so they didn't trip and fall, and could help them remember what it was they were about to say. I'm giving Mike Phillips a hard time because he was giving me a hard time about that. But no, it did impress me that you were in there with those guys. I mean, we're talking about fairly mature guys in their 50s and 60s that are talking tech, and here you are, a sub 20 guy, just dishing it out just as fast as they can take it. Definitely a peer.
I was like 13
in that group.
I started doing. I was
Were
13
really?
Or 14 doing that show. Yeah, I've been doing that for quite an amount of time now. So it's always been a good dynamic because Amnon and Mike and Spencer, they come from the older generation of things, and they'll say, oh, I don't want to upgrade to Windows XP. And I say, you have to upgrade. You have to upgrade. You have to get on Windows XP. not 2006. You can't be running Windows XP anymore. And we have those arguments back and forth. I mean, I upgraded to Windows 10 the day it came out. The day it came out, I said, "All right, update," and had it up on here. So it's definitely a good dynamic on that show.
If you're wondering what Nick and I are talking about, there's a great tech show on called Computers 2, the numeral 2, Computers 2K Now, that Amnon Nissan and Mike Phillips and Spence, I don't remember Spence's last name, and Nick do on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock Eastern. And that was one of the first shows that I saw that kind of showed me what you could do in those with online streaming, and I was hooked. I watched that show religiously for at least a week.
One whole episode.
Yeah, Spence Shoemaker. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, that's right. One whole episode, and those were great days. Those were great days. There was a
But
lot of
it's
cutting
funny
edge stuff
because
was coming on Amnon's show.
that came completely full circle. That started off as a radio show in the 90s with Amnon and Mike,
Yep.
and then transitioned over to a web show. So
Yep.
while a lot of people, myself included, eventually, think it would be cool to have something on the radio. Oh, be in the radio, do something with that. That they were at that and then decided, hey, let's do the web instead. That's where it is. So that's where we are now.
Yeah, and with a far wider impact than you can have just by terrestrial radio. Yep, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's see. What have we missed? Chris has got to go. Chris, so long. Mike Phillips does not like Windows 10.
No, of course.
Yeah, he'd still be on Windows 3.1, wouldn't he?
If I didn't push Amnon to upgrade to Windows 7, I don't. It would have been. It was this. I just recently got him on Windows 7 within the last year, on his main computer.
Oh my goodness, I remember having Windows ME on a laptop. Boy, that was terrible. That was terrible. Mike Phillips likes Windows 7. Windows 7 was a good one.
Of course, yeah.
But Windows 10, for a power user that's doing live streaming, Windows 10 has got some goodies in it that will really make the job simpler, and I think really breathe some new life into what otherwise would have been hardware that wasn't going to meet the bill. For example, this show today is being done on a second generation i7, 2600K i7, and it's overclocked a little bit, but this is a CPU that I've pulled out and reused in 3 or 4 different computers, and now it's running this whole show. Total CPU usage right now is 20%.
Yeah.
And of course, it's got a very nice video card in it. That's the other side of it.
And it's funny you mention resource, because I have what do I have in this computer? Let me pull that up before I speak. I have an 4790, which is about 2.5 years old or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I do the entire show, live stream, record audio, bring in guests. Everything is on one computer, and I'm at 60, 70, maybe 80% if I'm playing back a video full screen during the show.
Yeah.
But I mean, that wouldn't be possible with other pieces of software to be able to do everything on one computer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty amazing that we can do something like that.
Absolutely.
This is like if you built this computer 2 years ago when I did, it was maybe $1,100 or something. Nothing outrageous. A pretty modest build, and it does everything I want and more.
Yeah, we're building for the vMix guys, we're building using that 7th generation CPU. So it's amazing. There's a 10 core out there I'd love to get my hands on.
What do you think about the new Zen chips from AMD?
I'm very interested. Very interested. I mean, in the past, AMD couldn't hold a candle to Intel quad core when it came to streaming, which streaming and gaming are very similar. I mean, they're as close as streaming is to anything. You know, gaming is the closest. But we'll just have to wait and see. People get out there and torture test them and see.
The thing I'm most looking forward to is the ability to build a separate streaming machine. For if I was to build a separate streaming machine with an i7, you're looking at probably $800. Some of those processors are $200 to $500. I think mine was four something when I bought it. So, to be able to get a 8-core CPU for $250 or whatever, the $150, the prices are super low on them, would make a nice machine for streaming
Sure.
that you could do for a couple $100, $300, $400, $500 for a separate encoding machine.
Yep. And with NDI and vMix, of course, to be able to, and this is what I tried so hard to get Mike Versteeg to understand at VidBlaster, is if you can split the functions up onto multiple computers, then you kind of take away VidBlaster's Achilles heel, which was its high CPU use. But if you can send different pieces out to different places or take different pieces in from other places, you can make underpowered PCs do the job. And with NDI, you can bring in a camera feed here. You can send out to a streaming PC here. You can send out to a recording PC there. It's amazing, and NDI is like falling off a log, easy to set up. That's the thing.
Yeah. I'm curious. We need to get together off air because I probably should set up something like an NDI external output to another machine to stream in the coming months.
Oh yeah. Yep. And and if it's high definition and you want to do it kind of all within the vMix family, which I think is the easiest way to do it, you've got your main vMix license, which is probably a vMix HD or higher. And then for this streaming machine over on the side, you use a vMix Basic HD license, which is $60. And you bring in your input over NDI, and you just, basically you didn't need one input because it's got the audio and the video together, and you stream it and or record it or both. It's so simple. It's so, again, if I can understand it, it's got to be simple. And the beauty about simple is simple doesn't break as easily as complex breaks. Because when you've got 30 moving parts, any one of those moving parts in that chain breaks, the whole chain goes down. If you've got 2 moving parts and it breaks, you know what to look for. It's one or the other. Easy as bad.
Yeah, and that's the frustration, or not the frustration. That's the issue with having a separate streaming machine and having capture cards and video splitters to send the feeds out to different computers, and then you got to split your audio off the main board. There's a lot of stuff where the nice thing about doing everything on one computer is that if I'm hearing it in my headphones, it has to be going out to the live stream. It can't not be.
Well,
at least with my,
I've
maybe
done
not
that a few
everybody's, but
times.
from time to time, if I press a couple buttons, maybe I could screw that up enough. But for the most part, since it's all here, and that's the other issue that comes in with virtual audio cables. If I don't hear Brian, and this fader is up, then I've got to know. I know where to start looking. It's probably Skype,
Right.
because this doesn't break. The channel doesn't stop working. The sound card doesn't typically stop working, so it makes stuff like that a lot easier.
Apparently, you haven't poured a bunch of coffee on yours yet.
No, I've not. Well, on your mixer or your computer, you've poured a bunch of coffee.
Either or both, yeah. Yep,
Yeah,
that'll do it.
I've been fortunate. No, I did install some Chinese bloatware last night, 20 minutes pre show. I was trying to do some research about a piece of Chinese software that was doing an exploit in one of our games that we talk about. And I made the grave mistake of installing software that I could not uninstall, and pop-ups are all over the place. And it was, I almost had a heart attack. Let's just bring it back to that. This was at 6:45, and our show starts at 7.
That sounds like something I'd
And
do.
we started on time, so we were good.
Oh, I love it. I love it. This is the golden age, Nick. I mean, when you're old and I'm even older, we're going to look back on this time and say, wasn't that an exciting time where not just new products, but new ways of doing things were rolling out, and people were inventing things that had not yet been invented, and wouldn't it be a great time to be alive?
I mean, look at a piece of software like OBS. That is
Hmm.
a completely free, open sourced piece of software, and the
Yep.
OBS Studio is comparable. It's not it. Let me be. It's not vMix. It's not Wirecast. It's not VidBlaster. But for a somewhat simple one camera setup,
Right.
something like that works perfectly fine.
Yep. Yep.
It's very easy to use, and
Yep.
it's now that it's got program preview, the ability to switch between shots and see what's previewed. For a mobile production on the road where it's a webcam and a microphone, something like that seems to be much more realistic than lugging out a whole bunch of audio equipment and a bunch of pieces of software. So we're definitely in. I agree with you. We're in the golden age of this stuff.
Yeah, we are. Hold on, I gotta give a little Facebook post here. I mean, a little post to Mike Phillips.
There we go.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. The question is, and there's so many different. I words begin to fail me at some point when I think about all the folks that are out there that want to be able to just share their message. Let me go back. Let me forget everything I just said. Nick, I want your opinion on this craze that started in I'll say the last 6 months, but really less than that, of people using their phones to stream live to Facebook and have a show. Are you aware of all these hundreds and hundreds of folks that are doing that?
So to have a show, I think that these people are full of it. It's not a show when you're like you're resting your phone on a pack of sticky notes and talking into it. But I've used Facebook Live on a number of occasions. I run a local weather page, and it's great. What I used to do is record a video on my phone outside of a thunderstorm passing over, run back upstairs, plug in my phone, encode the video, and upload it to Facebook. And now I have the ability to just do a quick weather hit, a 40-second weather hit on Facebook Live, and it's instantly up there. So for little things like that, and actually out at PAX, we're probably going to do a couple of those quick little, not shows, but just, hey, guys, we're here. This is what we're doing. Make sure you check us out on YouTube where you can see
Right.
the
Right.
recorded video.
Right.
But
That's
that's
not your
fine.
main
But
show.
people, no. And even people using Facebook as a CDN, I think is good. But there's got to be some production behind it. I mean, look at blab.im. Were you ever on that service? I mean, everybody on there was doing a show.
But the video
Come
was
come
so
on.
outstanding and the audio was just so excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing better than four people trying to talk over each other and it being recorded in 4:3. I mean, that's really the kind of show I'm interested in. Actually, not 4:3, 1:1. They were square boxes.
That's where a lot of these people came from, Nick, is they came from Blab.
Yeah. And I don't mean to poo-poo on anybody that's trying to get into this or is interested in this,
Good point.
but just be careful what you're calling yourself and how you're labeling yourself. Like, Tom, you can say you produce a show on the internet. I can say I produce a show on the internet.
Right.
You wouldn't turn on cable TV and see a webcam and the built-in webcam mic on national television, because that just doesn't cut it. That's not the level of quality. And it's the same thing with Facebook Live. I mean, people are sitting in their kitchen with it propped up against a loaf of bread, talking while they're doing the dishes, and that's a show. Oh, hey, it's my fun time show. Come check it out. I'm doing a show here on the internet.
Yep. Yep.
It's frustrating. And I'm sure it's frustrating to you too, because you put all this work into a production and they're claiming that they're doing exactly what you do.
Well, that was my initial impression. My initial impression was, oh, come on, guys. Gee whiz. Spend a nickel, do something the right way. And then I realized, and you've given me a great example to go with, that they are those teenagers that are throwing the XLR cables out the window, and
Yeah.
they're learning. They're not doing anything particularly wonderful on the other end, but the process that they're in is a learning process. And a certain number of those folks are going to catch the bug, like you did from
Yep.
school, and they're going to say, this is okay, but I want great. And they're going to say, I need to go to the next level.
Yeah,
And
and it's nice because with software like the only one that comes to mind is Wirecast Go on the iPhone. You can add an image and you can do some level of production on a cell phone if that's the only option you have available.
right,
I know there's a couple of iPad apps that connect with iPhones, and you can make like a. I've seen videos on
right,
Facebook of it or
right.
whatever. I don't remember the name off the
You
top
do a
of my head. But
multi-camera. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And your iPhones are your cameras, and your iPad is your switcher. It's bizarre. As I sit here in front of
Cool
my
technology.
$1,200 computer and do the same thing somebody else is doing with a $300 iPad, but
But not the
hopefully
same.
they evolve.
Not
No,
the
not the
same.
same. Well, not the same at all.
And
But here's the question, Tom, and I'll pose this to you and people in the chat.
good, good.
Does the regular person is the regular person turned off enough from the bad audio and video quality of a Facebook Live video to say, I want to see something more? And I think the answer is no. I think they're perfectly fine watching Facebook Live.
Well, you're talking about from a viewer standpoint.
Yeah.
I'm talking about from a producer standpoint.
But I think it goes both ways because
from a
if you're
producer
producing
standpoint-
a show,
But see, there are too many other shows out there that they can look at and they can say, my show sucks compared to Nick's show. I want to be like
but if
Nick.
they've got more viewers on Facebook Live, like some people do, some people have literally built an audience of people that watch them on Facebook Live. Tens of thousands of people will watch them live on Facebook from their phone. Can they really say my production sucks compared to I've got 30 people in my chat room? If there's people watching, I guess part of the mentality is, well, I might as well just keep doing it.
Well, maybe.
I mean, it pains me to say that, and it's like I've done all this setup and I've got all this stuff going, and somebody's pulling 10, 20 times the viewers I'm pulling just off Facebook Live on an iPhone, but can I really knock it? I don't know.
Well, I guess that's not the scenario that I'm seeing. I'm seeing the scenario where somebody is promoting themselves as a professional broadcaster and they are broadcasting on behalf of a client and
Ooh,
they're doing
yeah.
it with an iPhone to say this is this is professional broadcasting. And maybe they're just I don't know. It leaves me speechless. But the beauty I see in it is that those folks are going to say, golly, I want lower thirds. I want to do side by side. I want to be able to have some sort of graphic going in the background. I want to do the kinds of things that make videos pop. And at some point their clients are going to begin to say, well, can you do that? And they'll say, oh, well, yeah, hang on a second. Let me go learn vMix real quick. And yeah, I can do it. And so I see an influx of folks that are ready to move to the next level in terms of their professionalism, either because their hearts demand it or because their clients demand it. And that's the positive part I see of it, is that it's going to be good for people to go out and use their phones and bump their head against the ceiling, and say, I can't do what I want to do. I can't do what I want to do.
Yeah, it's nice because it opens the opportunity for everybody to be a broadcaster, but it does stink a little bit when you and I and everybody else have invested money, time, and effort into a production, something that there's. How about a video intro? How many Facebook Live videos do you see that have an intro? People just click on the camera and, hey, this is my Facebook Live show. Thanks for tuning in. Like my page. Like, there's just no production whatsoever.
Yep. They'll get there. I'm very
Hopefully.
optimistic. I'm very optimistic. I've never felt this positive about something that I was so initially negative on. Um, I'm excited. I'm excited. So, all right. So, Nick, so you know TriCaster, you know Wirecast, you know OBS, you know vMix, um,
XSplit.
XSplit. Yes, that's right. That's right. Did you ever use
The only thing I
Minicam?
really yes, I did use Manicam for a while. I actually used Manicam. Well, this was back in the early days, 2008, 2009,
Yes.
with Manicam and FMLE streaming
Yes.
to Justin TV. Those were the days
Those were the
when
days.
when you just had nothing. There was no switching software that was UStream Producer was really the first switching software I ever used because it was free, and
Uh-huh.
I was maybe 11 or 12 at the time. You know, and there really wasn't anything available. Um, like if you look back at Justin TV at that point in time, there wasn't anybody that was really able to do a production unless they had a TriCaster because the software hadn't evolved far enough. I think Wirecast and maybe VidBlaster were the only things on the market, but they were both really expensive for people that were just trying to get started. And
Right.
I mean, computer power was much different then, and
Yep.
things just weren't as readily available.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And talk about tutorials, zero information online about using any of the software that was available.
Yep.
And now, if you needed to learn how to use a TriCaster without having one, I'm convinced you could go on YouTube and master a TriCaster just by watching software or watching tutorials. And then if you were sat down in front of it, you'd know how to use it like you'd been using it for a year.
Agreed. Agreed. Yep.
And that's nice because you don't have to, you don't have to have like. It seems like most of the knowledge I have about this software, was I came across. But then of course you had like Steve. That's how I originally found Steve, was those Wirecast tutorials
Uh-huh.
back in 2010 and 2011 because nobody else was doing them. There was
Right.
only one. You search Wirecast tutorial on YouTube, there was one guy,
Right.
and that was Stephen Haywood.
Hey, he's probably still getting hits on those tutorials.
I'm sure he is. And then, but pre that, I don't think there was a whole lot on tutorial wise. It just was a kind of, I know what I know. You don't know that. Well, bye bye. Good luck.
Yeah, that's
You're
right.
on your own.
You're on your own,
Yeah.
kid. Anderson says, so Tom, you were all mixed up, so you got a minus. I love it. Thank you, Anderson. Oh, that's funny. It's funny to do a YouTube search, try to find something, and I'm like, oh, wow, here's the answer. This is the exact criteria I need to find out how to do XYZ. And then I'll find out it was a tutorial that was made 6 years ago. And,
Yeah.
the software's changed 10 times since then. So, oh, why are those still ranking high in the searches? Why don't they push that stuff down and include the newer stuff?
Well, you look at some tutorials, they'll have hundreds of millions of views, and it's a 10-year-old video, a 6-year-old video at this point.
Yep.
People that were making tutorials back in 2010 and 2011 on YouTube, high quality tutorials in HD, 16:9, not 4:3. Those videos got a lot of hits, and some of them are still valid today, depending on how much the software's changed.
One of my most viewed shows ever was probably 4.5 or 5 years ago on a virtual set in VidBlaster. And it continues to be in the top 10 or 20 every month in terms of total views. Not watch time, but views on YouTube.
Yeah. Our most watched episode of Infection is episode number 13.
Really?
That is our most watched episode, yeah.
Ha. Hey, Zach. I see Zach just joined us from Cruise Week TV. Zach, we are heading out Saturday to go to Dominican Republic and Grand
Nice.
Turk. Yeah, we had it booked a year ago, and we are excited
So
going with
then
my wife and my.
I've got to ask the
children
nerd
and
question,
grandchildren.
Tom. What computer are you bringing? You've got to be bringing a computer, right? What's the internet like? I mean, that's what the first thing that goes through my mind when I'm thinking of going somewhere. What's the internet like?
Indeed, indeed. Yeah. Well, they say they have high speed Wi-Fi.
Oh, geez.
High speed.
That's not going to end well, Tom.
I think that's like high speed, like a high speed modem, like a 300 baud.
This was last year with infection. I went away with my family to Ocean City, Maryland, maybe.
Uh-huh.
High speed internet. I made sure we rented a condo. I said, we've got to make sure it has internet. I have to be able to do infection from the condo on Tuesday. We get there, and what do I see when I walk in the door? A DSL modem, and it was just instant panic ensued, and it was like 600K symmetrical, which was
Oh,
unusable.
600K symmetrical.
So
I mean, I'm struggling with 700K up at our church every Sunday because
yeah,
all they
it
have
was
is a
it was not usable
DSL
to
modem.
produce. It was
No.
definitely not capable of bringing in a guest and so we did an audio only episode
Okay.
of infection, but even with that, the latency was god awful.
Oh. Okay. Well, we're doing war stories now. Well, I got you beat on this one. When I was streaming soccer, I had to.
This is how I first met you, by the way.
Okay.
You were streaming sports and I was interested.
Okay.
That's the start of this whole thing.
I had to stream at 300K, and then I had to stream my audio at 32K because I had a 500K uplink, and so I became the master at live streaming with no bandwidth, and did that for 2 years, and then finally got, oh, this is great, you're gonna love this. Finally realized that I could get that one of the boys that played on my son's soccer team had grandparents that lived in a nearby neighborhood, and so we got a point-to-point wireless system and set it up in their tool shed and pointed it over to the stadium and set up the other transmitter receiver on the stadium, and then put a cable modem in their tool shed. We'd have to reset it before every game, but we had 5 megs up or something like that. We were doing HD and loving it. It was wonderful. But after
And that's the best stuff, right? That's probably one of the best experiences you've ever had live streaming was that setup. It's always the oh my God, we don't have any internet. How are we going to get internet in here to do this show? Those are
Yep.
always the best stories.
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, in fact, between the stadium and their house was a public park. And one of the things in the public park was the Pee Wee football field. And the Pee Wee football field end zone backed up to these people's house and their tool shed. So we buried Ethernet cable from the tool shed underground to the goalpost on the Pee Wee football field and hung the hung the receiver transmitter up on the goalpost. Fortunately, it was in the
Is that
spring.
still
So
there?
oh no! We just did it for the season and then took it down.
Oh, gotcha.
In fact, I think Ken Fox, one of the viewers of this show, he bought it from me several years ago. I mean, it wasn't expensive. It was $180 or something like that, and sold it to him for 100. So everybody got a deal. We used it for a season, but it was a lesson. It was part of the learning experience, and you're right. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
it always seems to be those we've got nothing to work with. Let's figure out how to do this stories that end up being the best experiences with this stuff.
Yeah. Zach is saying, Tom says kids today don't know how hard we had it. That's right. We had to stream in our bare feet because we couldn't afford shoes.
That's terrible. You have to
Yeah.
walk 20 miles to school in the snow while you're streaming.
Uphill both ways. That's right. Yep. Yep. That was fun. It was good stories. Good stories. Well, I've got to go back to work here. I can't have fun all day. I've got to go have fun other places. I've got some
Gotcha.
PCs to build, and let's see if anybody is still here. I will remind anybody that is interested in a group PTZ buy. I'm putting that together. So we're getting some pretty decent discounts on PTZ Optics cams by putting them in a group.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. I've got I think 8 already,
Oh,
and
great.
so yeah, yeah. And have you ever seen one of these PTZ cams?
Yep. Stephen Haywood, I think, has a couple of them, and I've looked at some of the stuff he's done. I've never used one personally.
Oh, let me see if I can get one sent to you. Would you look at it if I had it sent to you?
Of course, yeah. But wait, oh, hold on though. Those are what? They have HDMI out?
HDMI, SDI, USB
Okay.
3, LAN, composite.
Does the video goes out via USB 3?
Yep,
Oh, even better. Okay, because
yep.
I have one of those Avermedia, the $90 Avermedia cards, and the video's not the greatest on them, but it
hmm
works.
hmm hmm
I'm using a LifeCam Cinema for my video, so
That looks good.
I'm still on the webcam. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not bad.
yeah.
Gets the job done.
Well, the PTZ optics cam that I have loaned to my church, and we had to run all the cabling through the attic and then drop it down into a wall and then bring it out so that it's up high, and not in anybody's way. It's still a temporary installation, but all we did was run power and Ethernet to it, and we're able to control the cam via Ethernet through vMix and receive
Hmm.
the internet. I mean, receive the video feed over Ethernet back, 1080p, 30 frames a second. Looks really
That's
good
crazy.
over
Yeah.
Ethernet. Yeah, yeah. And the next generation of that same cam, which I don't have, but I want to get, does PoE, power over Ethernet. So you run
So
one cable for power, control, and video. So
And
it's
if you've got the
amazing.
setup, you've got a PoE switch, and you don't even need any of the converters or anything. You're just
That's right.
Cat 6 to Cat 6, and you're ready to go. You're rocking and
Absolutely.
rolling.
So you eliminate the capture card, you
Yep.
eliminate the joystick. I mean, it becomes a really very usable budget operation and high
Becomes
quality
scary
video.
almost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. So I got to go back to work and do real stuff like that.
Alrighty.
But you're a real
Well, it
champ.
was a
Thank you for
pleasure.
hanging out. Oh, the
Yeah.
pleasure's all mine.
I'm gonna record. How about maybe I'll do this? Maybe I'll record some behind the scenes video of PAX and send it over to you if you wanna
Oh
to
yeah.
show something like that.
Oh
I wish we
yeah.
were able to do live streaming, but the bandwidth.
Yeah.
You can imagine 80,000 people all
Yep.
trying to hit cell towers and Wi-Fi at the same. Like I'm sure at NAB,
Yep.
the trying to stream from there without a hard connection is
Impossible.
not worth it.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
we're gonna do some testing this year and see what bandwidth is like, and then maybe next year have a solution to stream live for the show. So
Gotcha.
we will see.
Cool. Cool. Well, you are a real champ for coming on. I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Oh man, it was a treat. It was a treat. We had let's see if I can get some stats here. The most folks we had watching at any point in time was we had 84 people watching on
There you go.
YouTube. I don't know about. Let's see what Facebook says. And that's at any one point in time. And then what I'll check the stats later, and we'll find out. Generally, we'll have 300 or 400 kind of come through during the course of a broadcast. Some people
Yep.
stay, some people don't. Yeah, I don't see on Facebook where the stats are yet, but interesting. Interesting. Well, cool, dude. Well, thank you, Nick.
Not a problem. Whenever you need a guest, let me know. I'll be here.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. All right. Everybody say goodbye to Nick. And say goodbye to me. And we will see you guys in the funny papers. And I'm going to let this roll out here. Where is it? Here we go. We'll let it roll out here with that and with a little bit of theme music. So